Hi everyone and welcome to another video on our forking guide to chess openings, and today we're going to be talking about the French defense but for white this time. And I'm going to show you one of my favorite variations to play against the French, which is the Monte Carlo variation. A lot of people discourage you to play the exchange French, but I'm going to show you a really nice opening that you can play, a really interesting line and variation that you can play against the French, and a lot of people will not be familiar with this. So let's take a look at the moves here. So this is the French defense, right? So you're going to have to start by playing e4, and your opponent will respond by playing e6. This is the beginning of the French defense, the first moves that we all know that start the French defense. We know this move is probably the most common amongst beginners because it's fairly simple to play. The exchange variation is very easy to play, but it's also known to be very drawish. So if you want to win a game, that's not the best approach for you. But I'm going to show you a very interesting line that you can play that is actually very interesting and can get you some wins. And the first thing is most people play the advanced variation here, the advanced variation, or some other line with knight out or something like this. But we are going to be playing the exchange variation, and believe me, you're going to win a lot of games by just playing this move, pawn takes. A lot of people don't like to play the French exchange as black, so some people will just resign here because they don't like playing this variation. I have won some games by people just resigning here, like, oh, I don't want to play this, so they resign and you get a free win. But your opponents, more often than not, are just going to take your pawn. So here you have the exchange French. If you want to play the very simple lines, you can just go, bishop out, knight out, castle. You can play c3. You can put your bishop out somewhere and then your knight. You can have a very simple and easy development. But remember, this game is very drawish. It's not going to be a very you're not going to have many perspectives to win this game. If you really want to win, you have to go for this move, okay? c4. According to some chess grandmasters, c4 is explosive. So here we have a very interesting move, very powerful move, and your opponents are probably not going to be familiar with this variation. So you have a point here. The point here is you're attacking this pawn, and if they take, you just recapture with your bishop, okay? Remember that your pawn here is supported by the queen, so it's not a big deal. But they're not going to take here. More often than not, they're just going to protect this pawn by playing the knight out or something like this. So you just wait for black to take, okay? In this case, you're going to have to wait for black to take. Black is probably going to wait for you to develop this bishop somewhere, and then they're going to take, so you have to waste a tempo to recapture. You're just going to have to move the bishop one more time. That's usually what black does here. So let's move on with the variation. So probably they're going to defend the pawn there, and you're going to develop your knights, okay? So you're going to go knight here and here, not here, but here. You're going to develop your two knights, and then you think about developing the bishops and castling, okay? So it's very simple, very easy to remember. You're just going to develop your knights and then your bishops and castle. So you develop your knight. They're probably going to develop their pieces too and try to castle, right? So here they are pinning your knight. Don't worry about that. If they capture the knight, you just recapture with the pawn, okay? This is going to be a pretty common move. Whenever they capture here, you just recapture with the pawn, and then you support your pawn here. You develop your knights as the plan. Black's going to castle. You develop your bishop, and then the other bishop if possible. And since you move this bishop, probably black is going to take here, forcing you to move once again to recapture the pawn and waste a tempo. And you're going to end up with an isolated queen's pawn, which is going to be probably what black is going to attack in your position. So you know really well where is your weakness in this position. But this pawn is also very, very useful because it restricts a lot the black's position. It controls the center. You are the only one to have pawns in the center of the board. So this pawn is very powerful here if you know how to play with it, okay? So here, our next plan is to castle. Probably black is going to make this a little bit harder, so they're going to play the rook there to check your king. You just cover with your bishop. This way you can castle next move safely. Okay? Remember, if black ever takes here, you can recapture. It's not a big deal. Okay? And then you have a support for this pawn in the center. Then here, from here, we have some options, okay? We have some variations. Black might go knight here. Black might also go simply play some other moves like bishop e6, for example, and develop the bishop. They might play some other moves. And let's take a look at the most common moves. So this move is, believe it or not, according to the databases, the most common move for amateur players. And against this move, we have a very interesting plan, okay? So we're going to sacrifice the bishop here, okay? And this sacrifice is very interesting because it forces black to take here or lose a pawn. And you can follow up with a very strong attack, you know, with your queen. Not here, but here. So let's take a look at that. So black takes, you develop the queen, and you are attacking the king and the bishop at the same time. There's not much black can do. They're going to lose this piece no matter what. If they capture your bishop over there, you just recapture towards the center of the board. You're ready to castle now and bring your rook to this file. Remember, the king is here. We're going to have a very nice attack against the king in this position. Now, you also have this attack. There's not much that black can do against that. If they develop the knight, you just capture the pawn anyway. And here you can just trade your knight for the bishop. And as they recapture, you can develop your knight. You can put your knight to the center of the board. And now you're threatening this really interesting move, which is castling with your rook pointing to the king here, which is a very interesting move. Now, remember, this is a check, so king has to move. Or maybe they have to sacrifice a piece here, the exchange. You're going to castle with check. Black's going to cover. You take the rook. They recapture. And then you take their rook in the corner. And you're basically up here an exchange and 2 pawns. And these 2 pawns are very strong in the center of the board. Your enemy's pawns, your opponent's pawns on the black side are, isolated and scattered around the board. So you have bigger chances to win this game here. If we go back, we have some other moves that black can play. For example, in this position, instead of playing the knight here, they can go and develop the bishop. Like I said, we're going to trade this bishop and then continue with our development. Okay, so we take, they take, we castle. They can play a move like c6, trying to get a grip on the center. We're going to put the queen here. So this move is, very typical move for this position. You're going to develop the queen here to this square, trying to attack, the pieces and the pawn here in the corner. Remember, this bishop is not here anymore, so it's easy to attack this pawn right here. If they trade, remember, you can also do this, but in this case, this attack is very powerful, right? So if they take there, you take their rook, they take your rook, and you take the bishop in the corner, and you're basically winning here. You have just a much better position. Another move they can play in that position, instead of moving the knight here or developing the bishop, is to just play this move right here, which is knight to d5. And in this case, we're just going to continue our plan, castling. If they trade, remember, you always recapture here. Fairly safe and easy to play, and you can continue your development. Remember, this queen move holds everything together. It's a very good move, very useful for this situation right here. So this is the Monte Carlo variation, something that your opponents might not be very familiar with, which is when you play this move right here, c4, to contest the center while playing the French exchange variation. I hope you can win some games by playing this opening right here. I have reached some success with it as well. And I'd like to know your opinion in the comments. Leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And stay tuned for more videos in the Forking Guide to Chess Opening. See you guys in the next one.